So, thank you very much, Dr. Nicholas Mastrogiannopoulos and Oren Simanian. Now we can slide on into our next panel. So, innovation plays an important role in any organization, but is it inclusive? So, I'd like to say hello to the moderator of our next panel, Sam Immerman. How are you, Sam?
Doing great, thanks.
Good. Sam is the managing director of Special Innovation Hub, and he'll be joined by David Evangelista from Special Olympics, and they will both introduce us to the new definition of innovation.
What's up, guys? It's so great to be here. Thank you, Oren and Fernanda. It's amazing to be alongside so many amazing individuals. I was with Oren in the summer for Winterize, if some of you are familiar with the platform, and now I'm leading this partnership between Coliseum and Special Olympics, the Special Innovation Hub. David?
Great to be here, Sam. And let me just take the opportunity to thank you, to thank Coliseum, to thank everyone as part of the Sport Tech Nation for welcoming this dialogue, but also this new theme.
So first, David, could you share a little bit about your work with Special Olympics, the current state of the organization, and what you're most excited about for its future?
Sure, absolutely. These have been challenging days for the global community. The Special Olympics joins the entire global community in solidarity and in unity. For a brighter day. Things have been very challenging over the past 24 months. But I'm very happy to say that the movement of Special Olympics, despite all of this disruption, is still thriving and booming. Special Olympics is a global movement dedicated to empowering individuals with intellectual disabilities through sport. Individuals with Down syndrome, with autism, with Fragile X syndrome, with a range of different abilities. Special Olympics uses the transformative power of sport, really grassroots sport, to bring out the very best in individuals with intellectual disabilities, but more importantly, bring out the best in us. It's a movement that is active in 190 nations. We engage over 6 million competing athletes year round. And what am I most excited about? I think in some ways, Sam, it's kind of a juxtapositioning question because the current pandemic has been so tragic and so traumatic in so many ways. One thing it has done is it has underscored the value, the transactional value of inclusion. So many marginalized groups have been so disproportionately negatively impacted through this pandemic, and so the world is really, there's a new awakening. A new understanding of what inclusion really means and what the benefits are, not only to those groups, but to everyone. And so what I'm excited about is harnessing this new understanding and looking to transform it into a renewed commitment.
Yeah, great. And now, given the world around us, like you mentioned, COVID and climate change and everything going on, who cares about Special Olympics? Like, why is it urgent? Why should we have, a passion for the cause?
No, listen, that's a great question, Sam, and it's a question that I think any organization, any company should ask itself. It's important that we keep the why very front of mind. When we look around the world today, whether you're in technology, whether you're in politics, whether you're in commodities, whether you're in development, whether you're in academia, there's this pervading sense of othering. There's this deepening sense of contempt, of distrust. We see it around the world. This is not a developed world issue. This is not a developing world issue. This is not a high income or low income reality. This is a global reality. The world is becoming more and more fractured, more and more divided, and there's just this overwhelming sense of othering people. This idea of them and us, and it's having a profound effect on the way that we see each other. It's having a profound effect on the way in which nations can can cooperate in a bilateral or multilateral way. It's impacting the way technology operates. We've seen it all over the headlines. So Special Olympics is looking at the world today. It's looking at this dominant tone, if you will. And it's recognizing that it's one very much predicated upon division and fracture. And Special Olympics is very much the antidote to that. Special Olympics, in many ways, I know so many big brands are on this call, and I want to just echo your sentiment, Sam, by saying what an honor it is to join so many amazing speakers and amazing leaders. Special Olympics also, through the innovation and through the boldness and audacity of its founder, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, who was the sister of President John F. Kennedy. Eunice Kennedy Shriver really brought to the world, to the sports world, and now to the tech world, one of the biggest brand gambles in history. She took the most invisible and at the time seen as the most valueless global demographic of people with intellectual disabilities. And she gave them the most coveted, the most heralded, really the most valued, even today, the most valued title, Olympic. And thus was born the movement of Special Olympics. It was a brand gamble because what Mrs. Shriver was looking to do was hedge her bets on the world understanding that indeed people with intellectual disabilities can embody the Olympic values. People with intellectual disabilities can embody and exhibit some of the strongest characteristics of grit, of courage, of determination. And that these values were not relegated only to the elite of the LeBron James and Lionel Messi and Michael Phelps, but indeed to athletes of all abilities. And so Special Olympics looks at this. It looks at the characteristics of its founding, and it recognizes that we have a unique role to play in the world, that through the values of our movement, but more importantly, through the example of our athletes with intellectual disabilities, we can offer the world a new way. The athletes of Special Olympics can offer the world a new understanding, just as Mrs. Shriver had envisioned in the year 1968 in Soldier Field, one of the most emblematic sports stadiums in American history. And indeed, what we're doing is we're offering the world an opportunity to rethink, to redefine how they see the world and really how they see themselves. Can we reach a place through sport and through technology where we can extend our hand of friendship, not build walls of exclusion? You know, can we envision a world where sport and inclusion, where sport and technology can come together and offer people unity and solidarity? Can those two sectors together collide and offer not an explosion of contempt, but a collision of opportunity? And we're seeing that. We see it in Israel just recently. There's a new Special Olympics league that has been created through the Israeli football. I welcome all of the folks to Google it. It's a massive headline in our movement, and I think a very strong innovation in the world of sport. But why is Special Olympics important? Why should you care? Because Special Olympics is one of those non-political, but deeply meaningful opportunity to offer a new story, to offer a new narrative, to think of inclusion not in a political way that hits the pundits or the think tanks, but inclusion that hits the pitch, that hits the swimming pool, that hits the basketball court, that hits the slalom slopes, that hits the ice skating rink. Can we think of a world, and can we create a world where technology and sport can not only redefine their own sectors, but really redefine this brand new world that we're seeing that is inclusion? It's no longer a romantic theme that is part of a corporate social responsibility platform of a big company. Inclusion now is in national governments. Everyone's seeing the very prolific nature of diversity, equity, and inclusion platforms. These are no longer CSR themes. These are governance themes. These are companies are now having their entire strategies guided by this. National governments, my home country of the United States, is taking the theme of inclusion quite seriously in their cabinet formation. Countries like Canada, but around the world, Sam, to give a quick summary. Around the world, inclusion is now a critical strategic theme that hits every sector, that hits every aspect of social life, because the world has seen what happens when we don't pay attention to it. And I think that's why Special Olympics is so honored to be a part of this forum, and how much we commend Coliseum and all of its partners, because you have been on the cutting edge of seeing the value of inclusion before the world did. And we're very grateful for that.
Yeah, amazing, for sure. It's definitely, I see like all of the DEI efforts, right? I think it's the imperative of special innovation, as well as like, you don't want people with disabilities to be left out of those efforts, left out of those investments. So yeah, definitely. And then, on top of that, so how can Special Olympics be an asset for the sports and tech sectors? And, what can the industry do to help?
That's a great question, and I'm glad to say that Special Olympics, the athletes of Special Olympics have an answer. At the end of the day, the title of this session was Redefining Innovation. Coliseum is one of the pioneering groups that is bringing innovation to a range of sectors: sport, tech, in our case, civil society. But let's unpack what the connotation of innovation is. Innovation, by and large, Sam, if I can speak freely on this forum, and I know we're being recorded, but innovation really does have a connotation of elite, of niche. When you're innovating, it's usually not something that is originally scaled. You first have to innovate, pilot, test, evaluate, and then you bring these innovations to a more scalable model. Special Olympics, through the partnership we share with Coliseum, is putting that in the inverse. We're now together with Coliseum, and what we hope would be all of you listening in, be it from sports teams, from technology companies, from any corporate, any institution. What we're looking to do is to say, if you're going to innovate, you must ensure that the innovation includes and benefits those people most on the margins. Because in a true equitable sense, okay, we're speaking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm reminded of the platform offered by former UNICEF Executive Director Anthony Lake, who's a tremendous global leader, and who really redefined the way international development investments were made by bringing forth the theme of equity. When you start with benefiting those most on the margins, you gain far more benefit for the larger collective. If you start at the easiest, chances are, and history and empirical research shows, those most marginalized will never benefit. And so to all of the tech companies listening in, to all of the corporates listening in, our call to action, the athletes of Special Olympics call on all sectors to ensure that inclusion is a critical theme of your business model, but more importantly, that people with intellectual disabilities can be part of your testing, can be part of your piloting. Engage people with engage the athletes of Special Olympics in ensuring truly inclusive design. Because at the end of the day, the athletes of Special Olympics are eager to offer their insights. This is a population that is never invited to these inclusive design forums, to these inclusive focus groups, or regrettably, to the community birthday party, to the school dance. This is a population that is relegated always to the sidelines, not only of the sports field, but of their communities and neighborhoods. And so the tech world and the sport world, through the example set by Coliseum, can bring a new narrative. They can redefine innovation in a way that says, no, if you're going to innovate, you must ensure that it benefits people on the margins first. And that first bus stop on the journey to full inclusive design could be and should be the stop at a local Special Olympics event. Ask the athletes of Special Olympics to engage in your design phase. Ask the athletes of Special Olympics to be part of your testing and your piloting phase. Ensure that people with intellectual disabilities can be part of your storytelling. What ends up coming from that, Sam, is the community will see three things right off the bat. And I can say that the movement of Special Olympics sees this in Coliseum. Number one, it shows that Coliseum is not timid in the face of engaging new demographics. Number two, I think what they'll see is this is a new constituent group that we can gain new insights, we can gain new recommendations. But more importantly, for this forum, what people will see is that evidence of the research done by Nielsen in the United States. This is a new consumer group. People with intellectual disabilities are engaging in apps. They're using technology in a way now more than ever because of the accessibility that technology is offering through forums like this. And while so much work remains to be done, and indeed it is, so much work remains to be done. What I'm most excited about, to harken back to your first question, is that we have technology leaders and sport leaders like Coliseum, groups like Playform, who I hope are on board, are online. I had the pleasure of connecting with groups like Under Armour in previous forums, and a big shout out to them as well, and all of you, La Liga, et cetera, et cetera. There's this new momentum of the not only of the compassion and empathy for people with intellectual disabilities that we're grateful for, but there's a newfound understanding of the value, of the power that comes from amplifying their voice. And so Innovation Redefined is not innovation providing an elite sense of value, but rather innovation redefining the way that value can be a collective benefit to all of us. And so the athletes of Special Olympics, thank you for the consideration. The athletes of Special Olympics welcome the chance to engage in this new redefinition. And most importantly, the athletes of Special Olympics are excited at the future that can come when sports and technology meets inclusion.
Yeah, amazing for sure. Definitely, like you were saying, that we do see this as a high like ROI program. I mean, talk about like a new market. There's as much as 200 million people globally with an intellectual disability.
That's right.
You know, we know that the data is there. People are interested in DEI. People are motivated by it. They want to spend on it. But truly, it's not going to work if firms aren't bought in. You know, regardless of profit. You know, it's got to be a top-down cultural priority that inclusion matters. Inclusion is something that a company is really going to prioritize.
Exactly. And I think also too, Sam, you know, so many companies and actually organizations, the United Nations, you know, so in this age where everyone is digitizing, there's been kind of this newfound importance and urgency of, you know, this heightened sense of storytelling. And we're seeing it around the world. I mean, it's not only, you know, all sectors are trying to find new ways of telling their story because so many people now are resorting to the digital space because our physical space has become so confined and so strained. Special Olympics and the athletes of our movement offer a really powerful and, dare I say, edgy type of narrative. You know, so many not-for-profits around the world and so many, you know, quote-unquote causes, you know, they often lead people toward a place of, you know, highlighting what's wrong. And what ends up happening is this, you know, there's this sense of kind of sadness and responsibility. Special Olympics takes very seriously the responsibility that all of us have to ensure that social inclusion is a reality. But we're asking people to feel good. We're asking people, come to your local Special Olympics event, put on a uniform, play unified sports, our inclusive sports model. Join the Special Olympics Israel Soccer League. See what it's like to have an individual with an intellectual disability as your teammate on the pitch. Because if you can play unified, then we can design unified. We can live unified. We can work unified. We can learn unified. And this story is, again, it's the antidote to what we're seeing. What we're seeing are stories of division, of sanction, of distance, of othering. I think the world is hungry for something to feel good about, for something to feel passionate and excited about. And we hope that everyone on this call considers Special Olympics as part of that exciting future.
So just lastly, Special Olympics and the WWE recently just announced a multi-year extension of their partnership. It dates back to 1995. Going off this, what we just touched on, in your experience, what characteristics of a company lead to a successful collaboration with Special Olympics?
Well, I think first is a baseline commitment to inclusive development in your company. So, right off the bat, if the company has a leadership that understands that inclusion is not a romantic theme, but a strategic governance theme, then already the company is well on their way to building a stronger business with a stronger narrative, for the public. I think additional characteristics are those groups that are willing to try new avenues of inclusive design, to test out different models, to engage new voices. We're in a very competitive marketplace, Sam. Of course, you know better than anyone, being part of the Special Innovation Hub and with Coliseum. This is a very challenging, very cutthroat marketplace, especially now. The companies that have characteristics around, the companies that are willing to take risks on populations on the margins, the companies that are willing to speak the truth about the value of inclusion, and the companies that are willing to say, yeah, we're going to make a strategic investment in an area that we've never done before because we believe it's the right thing to do. I can assure you that this movement of Special Olympics for the past 53 years, over a half century, has been delivering on the bets, if you will, of so many companies. Big global partners like Coca-Cola, big global partners like Lions Clubs International Foundation, UN agencies like UNICEF, so many more have harnessed the power of this new narrative, and they embody those characteristics. So I'd like to say, this is not something that companies would need to go and visit a Harvard Business Review, though of course, we welcome it. This is simply understanding that there's inherent dignity and value in all demographics in our common humanity. And when we capture those new voices, and when we see ability in a new way in all of us, employee morale goes up, your storytelling is strengthened, your marketing becomes more sharp and edgy because it's speaking to now different demographics. And let's face it, when companies have employees that feel good, they do good. And we have empirical data that shows that companies that have their employees engage in Special Olympics unified activities, their employee morale is higher, their productivity is higher, there's greater retention rates. We're very proud of that. And we want to offer that as part of this new innovation, Redefined.
Yeah, and also just so thrilled to be with Coliseum in the Israeli startup scene, because you'd mentioned companies willing to enter those different channels. There's not a better place to be. 230 companies nationally producing assistive technology products now. We're really in a great spot and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I want to, as we conclude, let me take the opportunity very quickly to thank Oren, a consummate leader, and we're so grateful for his leadership and his efforts. We're very grateful to Coliseum, you, Sam, and so many others across the spectrum, because this is a unique opportunity at a unique time in human history. I believe that the tech and sports worlds are really committed to this new understanding of inclusion. And I think that the future is incredibly bright if we can come together using the example that the athletes of Special Olympics set to say we're going to redefine innovation in a way that empowers everyone through sports and technology. And so from all of us at Special Olympics, a huge thanks to you, Sam, and to the Sport Tech Nation.
Yeah, thank you.